Um, a lot of things in the chat this morning about Larry Johnson and the defensive line. Uh, Jim Knowles, we've been complaining about Knowles' scheme for years, and nothing's changed, and that's all true. And there's a lot of rumors going around since the end of the Oregon game that Ryan Day freaked out on the defensive coaches and hollered at Larry and Jim Knowles to get on the same page. And I've talked about this before. Still getting a lot of comments and questions. Is this really true? The rift between Jim Knowles and Larry Johnson. And if you're not familiar with what I'm talking about, Larry Johnson does not want one of his defensive linemen to come off the field. He's got 4 defensive linemen in the game. He wants all 4 of those guys in the game. And Jim Knowles, at his previous stop at Oklahoma State, played a lot of the jack position, ran a lot of different packages where there were only 3 down linemen in the game, which takes one of Larry's guys off the field. Well, it's been alleged that Larry Johnson essentially gets his way with this, and that Jim Knowles cannot run everything he wants to run because of this. And when you look at that, you've essentially got a position coach dictating to the defensive coordinator what he will and will not do. Now, whether you believe that or not, I don't know. I do believe it based on some people that I've heard it come out of their mouths. But to not believe it, I totally understand, because it sounds ridiculous that the head coach would allow that to happen. I get it. I agree. That is ridiculous. But when the issue, let's say it is true, when the issue is you're not getting pressure on the defensive line with 4 men rushing, and you absolutely have to find a different way to get pressure, and you are handcuffing your defensive coordinator as to what he can and cannot do to get that pressure, well, that sounds ridiculous. And if it is the defensive line that is failing to get that pressure, that should certainly not be the coach whose position room the coach is dictating what we're going to do and what we're not going to do. But again, I believe that to be true. I've heard it from several people. Even I think state media has even said that several times as well. So when state media says it, it's true, man. It's just like, it's unbelievable. I get it, but it's true. Anyway, the point is, I have heard that after the game, this was talked about and maybe has been addressed, perhaps rectified. We'll see. And we'll definitely see by what they're running as we move forward. If we see some 3 down lineman sets, maybe we see some jacks, some interesting blitzes. If we see some of that, then it proves to us, number 1, yes, this was in fact true for all this time. And number 2, it's been corrected. Now, as the head coach, I don't know how you let that go on so long, but there it is. So let's we got some more stuff to talk about. I want to talk to you guys for a few. Kevin thinks it's time for LJ to retire so that the DC isn't handcuffed. Mika, good morning. Mika said we need more pressure and creativity on the defensive line, more hand fighting too, more stunts. We need a lot. Matt doesn't think Noles called a good game. He certainly didn't. I actually do want to get into one of the plays that's been floating around. Emily, they better be locked into a room until this is resolved. Rick Brick with a bit of a different perspective. It's always somebody else's fault with Day. It's literally his job to get everyone right. I totally agree. And I think, if those allegations are true, which again, I believe them to be, and I understand if you don't, it sounds ridiculous. I get it. But that's on the head coach, man. Absolutely. 100%. You're the boss. Woody says, apparently Day wasn't happy with Chip for the last play call to the sideline with the timeout. Just a rumor, though. That's 100% true as well. Was not happy. That was not the play that they had practiced. That was not the play that was ready to roll. Billy wants me to move that Oregon helmet to the front. I just moved it to the back. We got this week's matchups. We got Georgia, Texas. We got Tennessee and Alabama. Frosty Mug, an Oregon fan who loves Juck. We're going to talk about the budding Oregon Ohio State rivalry, which I think has, and a lot of people are going to scoff at that, and I get it. But I'm going to lay out my case, and just listen to my case. I think it has all the elements for something a little bit different. Rick Brick thinks that's just another thinks that the Noles and Larry Johnson thing is floating out there as just another Ryan Day excuse. But to be honest, Rick, I think that makes Ryan Day look way worse than either Jim Knowles or Larry Johnson. To be honest. Anyway, Tuesday came and went, and nobody changed their mind about speaking at the normal press conference. I had plenty of Buckeye fans tell me to chill out about this, and it always amazes me when people stand up for things like that. I really don't understand how you and I could look at the same exact issue and have such diametrically opposed opinions. I mean, like, just to be clear, those press conferences are not for the media. They're for us, the fans, the supporters of the program who want to know about our program after a big game. We not only buy the tickets and the merchandise and the gear, but we now pay the payroll. And we get 20 minutes a week to hear from the head coach to discuss the game with us. So if you're someone that does not care about that, that is fine with the fact that after the biggest game of the year, the game we've talked about for 9 months, the coaching staff doesn't take that 20 minutes to talk to us about it, that's fine. I get it. But to tell me that I shouldn't care, yeah, I'm just not cool with that. I absolutely think that it is a big fail. I think it's a big fail. I think it's a really bad look. And to say that, well, it was they announced Thursday that they wouldn't be having that press conference makes it no better. The gentleman that announced that is the SID that works for the head coach. If the head coach, in fact, wanted to have that press conference, he very well could. Snap of his fingers, I'm going to come and talk to everybody about the game for 20 minutes. It's not a big ask. It's really not. And again, not for the media, it's for us. And I, as a fan of the team who pays part of the payroll, who buys the tickets, who buys the merch, who talks about the team year round, I would like to hear from the head coach after the biggest game of the year so far. That's just me. Now, again, had some people say, well, you're going to hear about it next week because they're going to have their press conference next week. That's true. That press conference will also only be 20 minutes long. And that is normally when we would discuss Nebraska. But we're not going to get to discuss Nebraska because everybody's going to be asking about Oregon. So, I think it's nonsense. And I think it's a big fail. And I'm someone who has supported Ryan Day's decisions for the last 9 months and sung his praises. This here, vehemently disagree with. And it is a big deal to me, to be honest. There's a screenshot floating around of one of the defensive